Hey guys, welcome to Consume the Goodness. Thank you for joining me again for another video. I really do appreciate that. So today we're going to talk about self-talk, and I know sometimes it seems like, why would we talk about this if the whole, if we're talking about healthy living, shouldn't we be talking about food and exercise and things like that? Yeah, but the way we think is a huge part of being successful in, well, anything actually. So that's why I want to talk about self-talk today and getting ourselves to a point of having positive self-talk. And we all do this. I don't necessarily mean talking to yourself like, hi, how are you? I'm good, to your own self. But just, we have thoughts, we make decisions, we weigh things out in our minds, and we do have self-talk in one way or another every day. So making sure that that's a positive part of what you're doing, super important. The way we think affects the way that we feel, which affects the words that we say and the actions that we take. It's all tied in together, and it all is important. It all does matter. So typically a negative thought will drive a negative emotion, which will drive a negative behavior or unhealthy behavior. So the goal to successful self-talk, the goal is to really be mindful and conscious about getting it all directed in a positive way, and just trying to kick out the crappy negative thoughts that we have that will just lead on to more negativity. We don't want that. So that's the whole goal, is to put it in a positive direction. An example of doing this in a negative way would be also exaggerating something that's negative just makes things much worse. So I'll give an example with an exaggerated negative thought. So let's say that you have a really hard day at work, and your thought is, oh my gosh, that was the hardest, most difficult, stressful, tiring, annoying day I have ever had ever. That negative thought is gonna drive negative emotions, which would be like stress, defeat, feeling worn out, irritated, just not such good emotions. And then that will typically kick in a negative or unhealthy action. So if you say, oh my gosh, I had the worst day ever at work, it was horrible, every single thing about the day sucked, it was awful, I'm too tired and too irritated, I'm too stressed out to even think about going home and standing in the kitchen and cooking some kind of healthy meal. I'm going to go through the drive-thru and I'm going to get a Big Mac and French fries and a milkshake. So the negative thoughts kicked in negative emotions, which drove to an unhealthy action, which was to go eat a meal that's just packed full of high saturated fats and sugar and high in just low nutrient dense meal, just not so good for you. And the same actually applies even in our life with God. The same thing applies. A negative, how godly can our behavior really be if we have negative, hateful, judgmental, mean thoughts? Those thoughts are going to have words that reflect those negative thoughts, and the words are going to reflect, our actions are going to reflect those negative words that we have going out. So the same applies. I'll give an example of that. Let's say that you work in an office and there is someone at the front desk, and every time you walk past them you are just irritated because they always look all bummed out and blah and depressed, and they never smile. They always look all mopey. And you think when you walk past this person, oh my gosh, she should be smiling when she's up there. She's the person who's greeting the people who come into this office. She's never smiling. And then that kicks in a negative emotion, which would be irritated and annoyed. And then let's say that this girl, like everybody, it's a lunch break and everybody's sitting together talking and laughing, but this girl is sitting by herself and she looks really sad. And then all the thoughts that you have about this person and the emotions that you have connected with those thoughts make you look at that person sitting alone, sad, and think, yeah, I'm gonna go over there and sit with everybody else who I enjoy being around, and they laugh, and that's what I want to be around, so that's what I'm gonna do. The negative thoughts drove negative emotions, which drove a negative, definitely not godly type of behavior, by looking at that girl and thinking, no, I'm gonna not go over there. I want to go over here where everybody looks like they're having more fun. So it's the same type of there's a relationship between the two, the way we think and our emotions. It's connected to the way we eat, when we choose to exercise or not. It's connected to the way we treat other people. And but there are ways to improve that. So even if we initially have a negative thought, I'm not saying don't ever have one negative thought ever. We are human people. I mean, we're gonna have all kinds of thoughts and all kinds of emotions. That's part of being a person. So I'm not saying anything like that. That's totally unrealistic. But there are ways to improve. There are ways to improve that. So let's say that it's the negative thought. It starts negative, but we have to stop and think, okay, how can I change this? How can I redirect this? How do I stop everything being so negative? Well, a good start would be not to over exaggerate things. Don't be super dramatic about stuff. And just stop yourself and redirect your thoughts to a more positive place. So even if it starts negative, like, today was a really hard day, but today's a really hard day. I'm just worn out, too tired to go home and cook a big, healthy dinner. But I can still find something healthy to eat. Come here, Bella. Sorry. So that's a way to do that. You redirected your thoughts. You didn't overly focus on how horrible the day was. You didn't use that as an excuse to do something that's unhealthy. You recognized, okay, this was the tough day that I had, and then you overcame that and said, all right, I'm not going to spend all the time cooking this meal that I was planning on cooking that takes 30 minutes to make. Instead, I will have a healthy choice. Even if you decide to go through the drive-thru, there are still choices that are on the healthy end. You don't have to go full-blown unhealthy because you had a bad day. And I'll go back to in our lives as a Christian, or in our lives with our relationship with God as a saved person, the example I gave about the front desk person, the same thing can be true for that. You can, let's say you walk in and you look at her and she looks all depressed and mopey and whatever, and that your thought is, oh my gosh, she should be smiling. She's sitting up there. And maybe you do feel annoyed, but you can redirect that and stop yourself from having the cycle just be completed with something negative. Start negative and negative. You can break that and have a positive part in that cycle. And look at that person when it gets to lunchtime and she's sitting all alone and everybody else is on the other end, all sitting together having a good time, and say, okay, normally, I would want to go over there and sit with everybody else because they are happy and this girl is annoying me. Have it end on a positive note. Go sit with that person. Maybe that person's going through something that's really hard. You don't know that. You don't know why she's like that. Maybe she needs maybe by you going and sitting with her and doing something positive instead of keeping it going negative, you're the friendly face that that person needs during a hard time that they're going through. So it can start negative and it can still end on a positive note. It doesn't have to be, oh, well, I already had this negative thought. I already feel stressed and irritated, so I'm just going to keep it going. Don't do that. Just, and it does take work. It's you have to be consistent. You have to constantly be mindful about where your thoughts are, and then be mindful about taking control of that and saying, okay, no, I'm not going to keep thinking this way, or no, okay, yeah, I get it. Maybe today was a hard day. It doesn't mean it has to end crappy. It was a really stressful day, but you know what? I'm going to take that stress and get it out during a good workout when I get home. The difference between keeping it negative and turning it into a positive difference was that you, like I said before, you didn't focus on what the really hard parts were. You recognized that there was something that, you know, the day was kind of tough, and you got a positive, turned it into something positive. So when I was going over this video and what I would be talking about, a couple of Bible verses popped out to me in my, I didn't go get my Bible, about the focusing the difference in, sorry. So the two Bible verses, at least that popped out at to me for the switching the way that we think, is one of them is Hebrews 13:6, and it says, "So we may boldly say, the Lord is my helper, I will not fear. What can man do to me?" And Colossians 3:2 says, "Set your mind on things above, not on things on the earth." So the reason why those two popped out at me when I was thinking about redirecting our thoughts, the reason why those two verses popped out at me is because it's really, really difficult to stay in a negative place when your eyes are fixed on God. It is really hard to have a negative thought and have damaging thoughts which go to not so good feeling emotions, which go to not so good behaviors, ungodly behaviors, or unhealthy behaviors, or just negative things. So those two verses popped out at me because they are saying to look to God, keep your focus on Him. And I love the part in Hebrews 13:6 it says, "What can man do to me?" Because that also ties into this so well. Because what if you stop and reflect, okay, which it is important to stop and think about, what exactly was it that I am thinking that today was so bad, but why? What was it that made today so bad? And reflect on that. And then also reflect and see if you ever notice a pattern. Every time I'm around this person, this is how I feel. Every time my day starts like this is how the rest of my day goes. So, but the whole point, or the reason why that, what can man do to me? The reason why that pops out to me is because it is all the things that are stressing us out. It's all things of this world. And if our eyes are fixed on God and His Word and the promises that He has made, and His love and grace and His goodness, how much can we focus on those things that made us feel stressed out, or that we were thinking, oh, today is so horrible? And it's good to redirect your thoughts in a healthy way, like what we were talking about throughout this video, and also to come here, Bella. I lost it. Sorry. Redirecting your thoughts in a good way. I'll come back to it if I can remember. So another part of the Bible actually that stuck out to me, or that I was thinking of when I was going through this, when I was talking about being mindful, reflecting on what's negative and why, and is there a pattern. It's also good to think about the good stuff. That's where I was going. It's good to think about the good stuff too. Think about your blessings. Choose to focus on all the good parts of that day. Even if you think, nothing really super exciting, or, I wasn't surprised with anything great today. Everything. You can find blessings in everything. I got to work safe and I got home safely to my family. My kids are all sitting here and we have food in the house to eat. Things that we a lot of times take for granted, those are blessings. So choosing to focus on that stuff is really good. And also not only reflecting on the negative things that happen to try to learn and grow from them, but also reflecting on the good stuff, because that locks into our memory, and we remember how good it felt to start a negative thought and then end it with a positive behavior, a positive action. And we remember, okay, well, it's not worth it to be all stressed out. It's not worth it to have my whole day be horrible. So I'm going to overcome this. And that's a good feeling when we overcome something like that. So reflecting on the positive part is good too. But that reminded me of a couple verses in Proverbs. And they are Proverbs 16, 21 and 24. And they say, the wise in heart will be called prudent, and sweetness of the lips increases learning. And 24 says, pleasant words are like a honeycomb, sweetness to the soul and health to the bones. So the reason why those two verses stuck out to me is because the part that says, and sweetness of the lips increases learning, that ties into all of this, I believe, because we do learn from it. We learn from the this cycle, thoughts, emotions, behaviors. We learn from this cycle, and the way that we handle it, we learn from it. If we keep it negative and we say negative things, we will probably learn from the negative stuff too. When we turn it into a positive, we're going to learn from that too. Like, oh, okay, yeah, I get it now. This is a much better way. It's more enjoyable to go through life, stopping the negative stuff and redirecting it to something more positive. And that, the things that we say really have an impact. If we're always saying negative stuff, we're always constantly talking about negative things, and the words that come out of our mouths, they do play a big role in the way that we walk through our daily lives. So that's why those Bible verses stuck out to me. So it's not the easiest thing. I'm not saying that just one day you're just going to wake up and be able to just like that redirect every negative thought and everything's going to be perfect. It is going to be tough. Some days are going to be really easy. Some days are going to be harder than other days. And that doesn't mean that you can't do it. It just means to be more consistent. You will get into the habit of doing that. The more you do it, the more you redirect your negative thoughts to positive thoughts, the more natural it becomes, and the easier it's going to be. So it does take consistency. It does take some practice, but I know that you can do it. So, come here, Bella. So I do want to say that I do really want to encourage you guys to do this. I know that you can, even when it's hard, even if you do have to talk out loud to yourself and say, oh my gosh, stop doing this, stop saying this. Okay, you're stressed out. It doesn't mean the whole rest of the day has to suck. It doesn't mean whatever. Or use this as fuel to do something good. And you'll feel better about it, as opposed to ending it in a bad way and then you feel bad about it. You feel guilty, or you feel some type of regret because or maybe physically you feel bad. Maybe after you ate the Big Mac and the fries and the milkshake, you feel like sluggish and your stomach hurts, and the negative stuff tends to not lead to very positive outcomes. So we want to avoid that. So practicing positive self-talk and working on keeping that cycle of thoughts, emotions, behaviors, working on keeping that cycle more on the positive side of things. it's beneficial to our eating. It's beneficial to the way that we exercise, choosing to exercise in the first place. It's beneficial in our God-fearing habits. It's beneficial every day, every moment of every day. It is beneficial to do that. And there was a Bible verse that made me think of that too. I have a few in here. So Proverbs 17:22 says, "A merry heart does good like medicine, but a broken spirit dries the bones." Having this cycle of thoughts, emotions, behaviors, and keeping it on a more positive, even if it starts negative, turning it to a positive and really being mindful and conscious of doing that and having it be something that you practice doing all the time, it is good for you in every way. I cannot think of any situation where having a negative thought, which makes you feel negative emotions, and then you do something negatively, or do something negative or unhealthy. I can't think of any situation where that's a good way to go. Where it's good for you to keep it going negative. It's good for you to eat the bad meals all the time and choose not to exercise, and it's good for you to be hateful to the person who isn't smiling. Like, no, it doesn't work like that. I seriously cannot think of any way that keeping the cycle negative benefits anybody in any way. It just doesn't. So unless you guys can think of something, I'm pretty sure there's not. But that's what today's video is all about. Positive self-talk and how it really does play an important role in having a healthy lifestyle. And it's, having a healthy lifestyle is not just about eating and exercising and drinking the right amount of water. It's a lot of mental, and it's a lot of our drive and what we think and feel and how we choose to act upon those thoughts and emotions. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I thank you so much for coming back to watch. I appreciate that so much. So thank you so much. Again, if you have questions or any feedback, please leave comments below, and like and share it with anyone. I want to get these good messages out as far and wide as I can, because filling our bodies with good foods and moving our body to keep us healthy and physically healthy, those are important. But also filling our bodies with God's word, feeding our spirit is also so good for us and so important. And so it would just be awesome to have it spread out everywhere. So thank you guys again so much, and I hope to have you back for the next one.